This is Aditya Kulkarni from Dell, and he's going to share some interesting information with us. But let me just mention your title, just so people know a little bit about where you're speaking from in the sense. Senior
Sure.
Director, Data Science and Analytics. So that sounds relevant to me. So with that, Aditya, take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Al. Thank you, everyone, for having me over here. Yes, like Al mentioned, I lead the analytics and data science team here in the services organization with the charter of driving a successful self-help experience for the customers who use our, we call them digital properties, right? Be it the support website or some of the on-the-box tools that we have where the customers get alerts and notifications and they can use those tools to complete their purpose so that they don't necessarily have a need to pick up the phone and call into the remote support or the tech support queues, right? So uh, over the past I want to say about 18 to 24 months or so, within services at Dell, we've been going through this what we call as a services modernization imperative, where the objective is to try and shift all of our customers to self-help and automated solutions, right? So it's the importance is obviously from a cost perspective, but also if you think about it, the customers get their resolutions at the edge so that they don't ever have to call into the remote support queues or even come to the website to seek self-help, right? So there are four sort of broad pillars that we're looking at. The no issues is where we are using AI to essentially improve the products, right? So we get a lot of telemetry from the systems. We want to use that telemetry to understand why certain products have higher failure rates, higher hardware issues, and then use that information to improve just the product quality. As the product quality improves, fewer failures, which means fewer calls, which means obviously a better customer experience uh, as well as lesser support costs for from a company's perspective, right? But if you are unable to resolve the problems and the customers are having them on the box, then we want to use that same telemetry information to provide proactive predictive support on the box itself through our auto heal functionality, where if I know that there are 3 alerts on your hard drive on a laptop, then we want to make sure that we understand that and fix it so that as a customer you never have to panic, you never have a downtime, and you get the resolution on the box itself. uh, but if that doesn't work, then that's where self-serve comes into the picture, where we still want to make sure that you have the right support available through our self-serve channels like the support website, as I mentioned, through a virtual agent, through our portals, through again on the box tools, where customers can get that resolution through our knowledge, through our content, and all the other assets that we have made available. If that doesn't work, then that's when the efficient support, where all of our remote support, tech support agents get all of this context and can provide the customers with the best possible experience so that the customers get the resolution in the first go. They don't have to call multiple times. If they have a hardware failures, the right part gets dispatched. The scheduling works seamlessly. The field services team works consistently with the remote support teams to ensure that from a customer's perspective, the overall experience is consistent and effective. Uh, Speaking about self-serve, why is that an important imperative for us going into this year as well as the next year? Because we've seen that as customers, we have about close to 300 to 400 million interactions that happen on the website, right? So there is a lot of focus from a customer's perspective to get their issues resolved without having the need to talk to agents, waiting queues, and so on and so forth. Right? The website is live 24/7, right? So that support is available to the customers as and when they need. From a customer's perspective, it's low effort. They don't have to uh, navigate through multiple documents and clicks and views. And I'll talk about some of the work that we're doing to enable the customers to get that resolution there, right? And then as the customers navigate through multiple channels, we want to make sure that they get the consistent experience. So if you're on the support website versus talking to an agent, and if ultimately we are ending up at the same resolution, then customers have the confidence that the self-help portals and the website works equally well. From a Dell perspective, as I said, it's yes, it is a cost play where it helps us make our remote support experience much more efficient and effective, where we have the right skilled agents and right skilled resources driving the right type of resolutions for our customers. It leads to improved efficiency We've got solutions in things like skills-based routing as an example, where based on the complexity of the issue, based on the products, based on the customer personas, based on their intents, we can route that route that customer to the right type of an agent, and it delivers better customer experience overall, right? So that's kind of why we've been on this journey for about 18 months or so. And as you can imagine, in the last 9 to 12 months, uh, with the advent of generative AI, there's been a huge focus, right? And there's been a huge shift in driving these solutions. What we thought would take us 3 to 4 years, we now have the ability of delivering those outcomes in less than 18 months. And as part of that, these are 4 strategic initiatives that we've embarked upon. Gen AI search, where at think of ChatGPT, think of Mistral, think of Llama, think of all of these large language models available. We want to make sure that we provide the customers with that prompt response in the search functionality. We've always had a virtual agent, but now with the growing scope of large language models, we've integrated some of those capabilities within our VA, and we are seeing a significant improvement in terms of call coverage as customers navigate through engaging with that system. Classical or traditional AI, we've now started integrating those solutions to provide customers with personalized recommendations on the website, be it specific types of content, be it an article or a video, be it using some of the on-the-box telemetry to provide curated information when they visit the website, or be it providing them with one-click solutions like getting a part fixed by filling up a form. As we've navigated through the challenges that generative AI has, I think most of the speakers have spoken about this earlier as well. One of the key gaps or the challenges that we came across very early in the cycle was having a set of knowledge base, be it articles and videos or any other assets that's consistent, that's curated in the consistent manner, and is effective and efficient. Without that, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? The large language model is going to use your content store to render the right information as the customer queries. While we realize the challenges in having that knowledge base to understand that how to curate the right information, the other piece of challenge that we also understood was you may have the best-in-class large language model, but if your overall ecosystem is not efficient enough and is not set up in the right way, you are going to cause a significant amount of latency in the system, right? So we had models which took about 40 seconds to render the right information because there were subsystems that weren't scaled up to the level of these large language models. So we had to go and re-engineer some of that as well. And within that space, as we embarked upon improving our knowledge base, we built what we call as a knowledge operating system using generative AI capabilities, where we want to use Gen AI to create new content. We want to use generative AI to understand if the content that we've got in the knowledge bases has the right quality. If we have multiple articles or multiple videos or multiple documentation available for the same product, same issues, then how do we merge them? So all of those models are now being built and integrated in one sort of ecosystem, and that's the Gen AI knowledge management solution. And I'll talk about it in the next couple of slides here. So generative search, right? We started this journey about 6 to 8 months back, where we looked at some of the capabilities that we had in-house, right? And the search was one of the first solutions we wanted to work on, because a large portion of customers who come to the website use search, and we wanted to make sure that as the customers navigate through that experience, we're able to get some additional context by providing them with prompts. While we are still in the journey of building that prompt engineering approach, the first step in that direction was to provide them with a specific response using the existing knowledge base. And the generative AI search was a step in that direction, right? We started with, obviously, the easiest part for us was to go and derive these solutions for English-speaking customers. We did that. We got a great ton of feedback from the customers on what worked and what didn't work. We also saw a significantly improved engagement. In fact, I think our engagement rates, our click-through rates on this went up by about 65% in some cases, depending on the customer issue type and the intent that the customer had. We saw a significant influx of customers using these capabilities to to not just solve their specific problems in that interaction, but also come back and use these capabilities over and over again. So the repeat rate for the customers was also extremely high. Uh, with the by providing the customers the ability of giving us the feedback then and there, that also improved. We got about 70% more customers who actually clicked on those thumbs up, thumbs down buttons and gave us some very specific feedback on what needed to be improved, not just in the search results, but also from a UI perspective, right? In some cases, the UI was not showing up the results then and there. The customer had to go scroll down and pull the information from 3 or 4 other articles. Second, in some cases, we didn't necessarily have everything embedded in one snippet. So we had to not just show the customer about, well, this is your response. We also then started showing these reference citations, like which articles have we used to render that information, right? So that actually helped a lot, because then we saw that the customer engagement improved because of increased trust. Like when the customer is typing this query saying that my laptop battery won't charge, and when we cite these reference articles that talk about how do you troubleshoot battery issues, or how do you troubleshoot or how do you increase the battery charge, or whatever those list of articles are, it just increased the confidence in the customers responses, and we could see that in the journeys as well. We saw more customers clicking on it. In the back end, as the customers ran diagnostics, we could connect that in the journey context to figure out that the customers are actually following through the article and then following those steps. All of this information then is being collected in one ecosystem. And I think Mandy mentioned this earlier as well. You've got to measure, you've got to have the right KPI metric system available so that all of this can be measured in the right way. So this data has been collected and is being hosted in one ecosystem where all of these models come, and that data is then fed into the measurement system, where we can track things like failover rates, things like deflection, customer engagement, interaction volume, and so on and so forth. All of those KPIs have been set up using the same ecosystem of sorts, right? And we do have a few things to work on in the next six months or so, where we want to make sure that we now have the prompt engineering built around it. So when the customer types "my battery won't charge," we want to make sure that we can integrate this with our telemetry systems to figure out if there are alerts on the box that indicate there is a battery failure, so that when the customer types this message, we can go back and ask the customer, are you sure, or are you aware that your on-the-box system has captured these alerts? So click here to get a battery dispatch. So they don't even have to go and perform these troubleshooting steps. With the integrated context and the prompt engineering available there, the customer can pick and choose the options provided to them on the go. And again, because we already have done the fundamental or the foundational effort of setting up the architecture in such a way that this data is collected and the context is set up live on a real-time basis, all of this information is then going to churn through 3 or 4 other models, which will host the customer context, which will also provide recommendations, which will also make sure that that context gets transferred from one page to the next page to the third page. And if the customer then ends up failing over into the queue, that context is passed to the agents as well. So starting with search, but then integrating that into the entire ecosystem, into the entire journey, and providing customer with the curated information is how this entire system is going to be set up. The second solution that we've been working on is slightly different experience, right? The search is a different type of experience where the customer is coming in and giving you a response of saying, "This is my problem. Give me the list of articles or knowledge base that I can use to go fix my problem." In case of a virtual agent, where it's more like a chat-based experience, we've had a virtual agent for a long time, right? It's been live for the last 5 or 6 years, and we've had great progress using the traditional NLP NLU approach. The experience and the fundamental way of engaging with the customer is slightly different. So when the customer is engaging and we are asking them the prompt questions, what we have seen traditionally is that we've got about 60 to 65% coverage in terms of our top call drivers, right? We've built these automated solutions like work order creation, where the customers can get the dispatch then and there. And those systems work really well because those are backend processes. They've been automated. There's some element of AI there, but it's more automation than AI. And for the call drivers where we have strong coverage, we've had tremendous success. Like the CSAT scores have been 90% plus. The feedback has been very positive. Like I mentioned, the context that we wanted to pass from a unassisted channel into the assisted channel, that works really well in the traditional virtual agent. We are working on now integrating the telemetry aspect of it as well, where the on the box information is collected, it's hosted, and as the customer engages in the VA, we can then prompt the customer saying, hey, as soon as you engage with the virtual agent, you've given me your information, I have access to your telemetry, I know what's wrong with the system, are you here to solve that specific problem? As a customer, then you can imagine that it would be a very seamless and frictionless experience, because that's exactly what the customer is here to solve for. So that all of these capabilities have are work in progress, and some of them are live now in the traditional VA. What large language models have done is they've just exploded the coverage, right? Where we had only 60% coverage, now we almost have 99% coverage, because the intent identification engine that we've got has become exceptional in understanding why the customer is on the website. The that intent identification engine, as it passes that information into the VA, and then we start invoking the right next best action, that system works really well as well, because with the intent, if you identify the intent of the customer in the best possible way, then the underlying solutions will work seamlessly as well. So think about it from an Amazon perspective as well, right? If you go to Amazon and type running shoes, Amazon is going to capture the intent, saying your intent is to buy running shoes, and as it starts providing with recommendations, it can provide you with other footwear. But if Amazon captures your intent as you want to get fit, then your recommendations are going to change. It can provide you a book about getting fit. It can provide you other variables about tracking fitness, right? So it's all about capturing that intent in the right manner, and that's where we've seen the biggest benefit and an explosion of different capabilities coming together because of large language models. So with that coverage, or with that increase in coverage, we also have the ability of expanding into different product lines, right? We've got laptops and desktops, which obviously have obviously have had the VA, and we've seen success in the past. We've now been able to scale that virtual agent to our enterprise products. We've now been able to build a converged architecture around it, where it's not just about the customer engagement in that virtual agent, but it's also about that entire journey that the customer has been on. What did the customer do before engaging the VA? Did they visit the website? Did they read a certain set of articles? Did they download a certain set of drivers or run diagnostics? Do they have any events in the telemetry system? Did they share their log files? So all of that information is being collected in one ecosystem, and the large language models can then process that information fairly quickly and understand what the customer's intent is. And then in the backend, what we're also doing is building what we call it as a singular intent taxonomy, because as the customers navigate through multiple channels, you want to make sure that all of these channels think about the intent in the same way and in a unified way. If you don't have that, then a virtual agent picking up the intent as a slow performance issue, and a remote support agent thinking about that same customer having a fan issue, is that the resolutions are going to start making a big difference. Because as I said, a small change in identifying the intent can lead to a completely different path of resolution. So we want to make sure that we have that unified intent engine available, and then as the customer navigates through that experience, that intent either changes or is morphed into a unified way of thinking in terms of how the channel wants to render the right information. Getting into the next.
Excuse me, Adi, you have? Can you take a question?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So here it comes. I imagine at Dell you don't have. I have to laugh about this. It's true. Any trouble getting awesome statistics? But does that mean you have to be more careful about getting things wrong in the long tail of low statistical items or low statistical cases? How do you deal with the outliers?
Great question, right? So the one thing that we are also focused on is to understand which types of issues should we use the LLMs and AI for, because in some cases it may not be the right resolution. I'll give you a very simple example. If you cannot boot into your system, or if you're having a no post kind of issue where your motherboard is totally fried. That means you cannot get into the website. You're going to use your mobile device and then log into your account and start transacting there. Maybe the easiest solution for you in that case is to pick up the phone and call the agent, right? So depending on the kind of issues that you've got, we want to make sure that the right channels are available for you to get that resolution. The second thing we're also looking for is also the persona of the customer, right? If you're a tech savvy customer, if you know your way around the system, then sometimes providing you with the tech savvy responses may be a good idea. Like if I can ask you to go reset your hard drive as an example, right? If you're a tech savvy customer, you could do that. But if you're a novice customer who has no experience of working on a laptop, then providing you with that kind of response may actually lead you in a completely different direction and may actually break your system rather than help you out. So we also want to make sure that the right channel is available for you depending on what kind of persona you belong
to. That sounds kind of similar to understanding the intent in many ways. Is
Yeah.
If you understand what type of customer that is, you can provide the right kind of response. If you don't, it's harder. And if you understand the intent, which is not always easy to figure out, but if you understand the intent, you can give a much more relevant answer.
That's right. And in our experience in the last about 8 to 10 months of working with these large language models, right, it's been very clear that intent identification becomes one of the most important imperative, because if I'm able to get that right, and then if I'm able to tag all of my content using the same intent engine, then there is a very clean mapping of saying if you have issue X on product Y, then you have an access to these 10 articles and 5 videos and 6 documentation. So, and I'll talk about that in the Gen AI knowledge management aspect as well, but that's kind of where we are leaning towards, right? That get your intent right, make sure that there is a taxonomy that unifies that intent across the entire ecosystem, and then you should have the ability of scanning the entire knowledge base to figure out what the right content is, or first start with the channel, what's the right channel for resolution, and then open up that knowledge base for the right customers at the right time.
And so the more experience you have with that particular customer, the more information you have to use to figure out intent, right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
All right, and then going into the next year, the part that we're going to invest and investigate is the speech to text and text to speech, right? We want to make sure that we have those capabilities for different types of customers who would want to interact with us through voice, and we can convert that voice into, again, the right intent and then go from there. So that's work in progress, and we should be able to get there in the next about 6 to 8 months or so. All right, so I spoke about a bit about what we're doing in the Gen AI space. While that space has been new and has been exploding in the last few months, we've always been on this journey of how we want to use AI to transform the entire services business. And one of the imperatives that we've spoken about in the past, and we've now been able to successfully deliver many use cases, is personalization, right? So as you come on the Dell website and you enter and you give either your logging information, or if you enter your system ID and get to the support page, right? We want to make sure that the home page that you see is curated for your specific needs. So if you've got if you've got alerts on the box to telemetry, or if we have additional information from your past journeys, if we know what kind of content you like if you're a person who likes to read, then articles and flat content and documentation and manuals becomes your preferred mode of seeking the information. But if you like videos, or if you like images, then we want to push that sort of content to you, right? So providing that sort of curated, customized, personalized information as you navigate through the experience is what we want to do. Secondly, as you navigate through the journey, you may be on article X and read that article, but then as you jump the hoop, because that article was unable to resolve the problem, to the next article or the third article, we want to make sure that that journey context is captured and is transferred, right? And that information, as we collect real time, we want to make sure that the recommended articles, the recommended videos, or the dynamic content recommendation engines that we'll build, those start providing you with specific information pertaining to your, again, intent, right? So the big challenge we had with this was, how do you set the architecture up? Like I mentioned earlier, in some cases we've built really strong models, but if the consuming systems have not scaled, then that's still a challenge. So what we want to do is we want to get that architecture right, and we have invested uh, a lot of time in the last year or so to ensure that we get that right, where we've got the microservices being built as MFEs, and those MFEs then can be called across the entire ecosystem. So like article recommendation as an example, that's an MFE that is hosted in the system, but you could potentially call that on the web page. You could call that in the portal. You could call that on the box. You could call that in a virtual agent experience. You could call that in the search experience. So it's one system built, but it serves multiple purposes and it serves multiple customers as they navigate through their journeys. The other piece that we've been cognizant about is the whole UI and UX, right? We want to make sure that the look and feel of the page is seamless and consistent with how the entire website looks like. So although we've built about 8 or 10 MFEs already, and we plan on building many more in the next 12 to 18 months, we want to make sure that the user experience teams, the customer experience teams are side by side with our data scientists, are side by side with the data engineers to ensure that as these models are built and as they're scaled, UX becomes part of the solution. And as we host them, we want to make sure that irrespective of which channel the customer is in, that MFE provides the exact same response as the exact same input is part of the payload, and the exact same output is part of the outcome. So all of these we're thinking of them as key enablers, and there has been a lot of work that has happened in the last year or so to set them up. The journey forward is for us to start spinning off these models on like daily, weekly, monthly basis, because now the architecture, the foundational work is done. The content recommendations have been built. Now it's about how do you want to invoke them? At what points do you want to invoke them? Which is the right space to have, or on a web page? Where do you want to call the article recommender? Where do you want to call the video recommender? Where do you want to make them more dynamic in nature versus static in nature? All of those questions is what we are trying to answer. Along with that, the other piece that we are also working on is looking at the virtual agent I was talking about. You don't want a virtual agent to be shown to all the customers all the time, right? The right customer needs to have access to that right virtual agent at the right time in the journey, so that they engage with the agent, they get the right information, that context is passed, and the customer feels that they've been taken care of on the website. If the virtual agent keeps popping up throughout the website, throughout the journey, then it can be a very frustrating experience, right? In some cases, in some industries, it may make sense, but when it comes to the kind of customers we deal with, when it comes to the kind of intents we want to solve with our virtual agent, we want to make sure that that information is captured as part of that agent journey. And we collect a lot of data, right? We get a lot of data from the customers. We collect a lot of data from our journeys. So we have enough information to understand what kind of customers need to be shown the virtual agent so that their journey gets seamlessly completed on the web. And lastly, the telemetry is a big part of our ecosystem, right? We've got plenty of products in the infrastructure environment where you've got servers, storage devices, networking devices, and they share the petabytes of telemetry on a daily and a weekly basis. We want to capture that rich information, because as customers come to portals and they log in, and like if you have a fleet of 100 servers, we want to provide you with recommendations by those 100 servers, not necessarily by just one server, but like that fleet. As a fleet manager, if you've got 100 units that you want to take care of, you don't want to go and look at those recommendations unit by unit. You want to make sure that there is a place for you where you can get a summarized information, and if you have any specific issues with specific server, then you can drill down into it and then get those like specific recommendations. Those telemetry based recommendations, though, again, will be hosted as MFEs, so that irrespective of where the customer is, if you enter the service ID, or sorry, a service or a customer ID for that specific asset, then you get the recommendation only for that asset. But if you're a fleet manager who has 100 units, then you get different types of recommendations based on what you want to solve for. So all of these use cases now are being made operational, and in the next about 12 to 18 months, what we should really see is a significant acceleration in deployment, because now we've got the architecture set up, we've got the maturity set up across the entire digital portfolio of channels. We've got the MFEs developed. Now it's about hosting them in the right manner so that the customers can use them seamlessly.
Adi, I have another question for you.
Sure.
Given the scale at Dell with customers, content, and languages, did you have to build these technologies in-house, or were you able to use outside vendor products?
I'd say it's a combination of both. It always the build versus buy decision, right? So in cases where we saw a critical element that needed to be hosted on Dell IP, we've built it in-house. Like most of the telemetry work as an example, because Dell products and Dell engineers understand those products better than anybody else. That's being done potentially in-house. But our virtual agent and the entire IR system, not necessarily the IR system, but the UI of how the virtual agent looks and feels, we work with our strategic partners to ensure that the right virtual agent gets built across the entire portfolio of products. So it depends on the use case. It depends on it depends on if we have the skills internally, and if it's a core competency for Dell, like search as well. I think the Coveo was here earlier. We use Coveo as well. We're not a search engine company, so using strategic partners like Coveo help us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I spoke about this a few minutes back, right? The key challenge that we identified very early in our journey was that we had to make sure that we had the right knowledge base to feed into all of these large language models, right? We've got multiple use cases that are being built using LLMs, virtual agent search, a couple of them that I just spoke about. You want to make sure that be it search or be it VA or be it any other LLM, they have a consistent content store to work off of. If you don't have a consistent content store, then there will be three problems you have. One, the way intent is captured would be inconsistent, because of which your LLM would render wrong or at least inconsistent information. That leads to second problem, which is inconsistent customer experience. Customer may get a response of going and fixing the problem using a software update on one channel versus a hardware update on another channel, and that's a broken experience, and you don't want that. And third, it's just lack of redundant information, right? So the trust that the customer has by seeing consistency across the entire ecosystem is second to none, right? So you want to make sure that the customers trust the information, while that information is also accurate, curated, and shown consistently across the entire portfolio of channels that we've got. So given all of those challenges that we had, we embarked upon this journey to ensure that we can go and clean up the content. And since we were already working on Gen AI use cases, we thought, why not use Gen AI to help us improve the content, right? So as the customers came and started searching for specific call drivers on the website, we were able to identify a list of top call drivers or top intents. We used those top intents, mapped them against the top products that we've got, and we figured out that we could build a matrix view that says, for these products and these intents, these are the top articles we want to use, right? And we've got a huge knowledge base. We've got more than 100,000 articles, I'd say, about across the entire product lines. And we've got about more than 500 intents that the customers use our support website for. So you can think about the complexity of the system. We've got close to 300 to 400 products. We've got about 100,000 to 200,000 articles, and we've got about 500 intents. So that's the complexity of the entire ecosystem that we were dealing with. And this is just articles, right? We want to do the same thing with videos, with procedures, with manuals and flat pages, and so on and so forth. So we want to go do this. We want to go render this exercise for the entire knowledge base, so that by intent and by product, we are able to curate the information for the customer, so that they get a. You can almost think of it as a table that invokes rows. You identify the intent, you identify the product, and that row gets invoked by article, videos, and other assets. And that row is then what gets fed into the IR system, so that the right information gets rendered for the customer, right? So that's one use case. Having said that, we also have other use cases where we are using Gen AI to do three things. One, we want to go and scan the entire knowledge base to identify if there are any gaps in the content. Like for certain products and certain issue types, we don't have an article or we don't have a video. If it's by design, that's fair. But if it's not by design, then we want to work with our authoring teams to make sure that that content is created using be it case logs, be it community posts, be it other unstructured information that's available to us in-house, and create that article and push it through the human in the loop ecosystem so that that article gets published as soon as possible and the gap is solved for. The second use case was you have too much content. You may have 5 articles for a certain product and certain issue type. How do you go and identify those 5 similar articles? So can we build a large language model to go and identify similarity indices across the entire knowledge base to figure out these articles are similar, these videos are similar, these manuals are similar, and recommend how to go about merging them. So again, use the large language model to identify the gap. Use the large language model to identify there is too much content, and then provide recommendations to curate it so that there is limited but the right content available for products and by intents. The third thing was to ensure that there is the right quality content. So we've got multiple run books, rule books that we use to determine if the content we've got in the knowledge base is of the right quality. We are using large language models to essentially automate that entire process. We don't want to go perform 55 checks on the title of the article or 35 checks on the summary of the article. We want the large language model to use all of those rules and checklists in the prompt and tell us what the accuracy, what the quality percentage is. As we do that, we are then also looking at the measurement stick to identify if we have the right measures in place to track the efficacy of the articles, right? So we look at things like failover rates, right? Customers read certain articles and they have a higher propensity of contacting remote support queues because they couldn't get the right information. We look at customer feedback through thumbs up, thumbs down. We look at the actual CSAT verbatims where the customer is coming and saying, I could not find the information on this article. So all of that information is being used to create a tiered efficacy score like metric, so that not only are we saying that these are articles that are available for a large language model to consume, along with that, we're also providing them with the efficacy scores to say, maybe for this issue and this product, article 1 is the best fit because it has an efficacy score of 80%. So now you can imagine this entire ecosystem coming together as the foundational pillar for any large language model to consume, right? But the same ecosystem is now being used for recommendations that I spoke about for personalization. Because if you think about, if I understand the customer's intent, then I already know which 5 articles I need to procure from my knowledge base. If I understand the customer's product, of those 5 or 7 articles for that product, which are those top 3 articles I need to look at. So you can think about the LLM having access to the same information, but now your recommendation engines are also working off of the same same foundational data, right? So as this entire ecosystem matures and becomes more consistent, what we expect is not only will we have a higher intent coverage through things like our Gen AI virtual agent, which will go up to 98% to 100%. The recommendation engine will work on a much higher accuracy of 90% plus because we've got the right product and the right intent captured. And as the IR systems start rendering the information, we expect the resolution rates for all of our virtual agents to go up significantly as well. So all in all, the entire ecosystem starts sort of coming together in one framework where your content and knowledge and data are the foundational pillars on which the entire system is built. And then be it your virtual agent experience or search experience or recommendation-based experiences, the overall productivity of the entire ecosystem goes up. And
we have another question if you're
Sure.
ready.
Yeah.
Okay. For your Gen AI model, did you concatenate using out-of-the-box solutions like Coveo, or did you build a custom knowledge graph, for example?
It's actually a combination of both. We are working on building a custom knowledge graph as we wanted to build those relationships within the knowledge base itself, and we are exposing those through Coveo for it to integrate in the search experience. And then for the virtual agent, the same ecosystem is made available for the VA to extract the intent and the right knowledge base.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I wanted to close with this. Like I mentioned, the 3 pillars we wanted to ensure that we have the right data and taxonomy governance. I spoke about the intent or the issue type taxonomy. Similar to that, we are building a product taxonomy to ensure that we have a consistent list of products listed. We are working on building a persona taxonomy that shows different personas that we want to capture, so that again, by persona, by product, by intent, or by issue type, all the information that we want to render in front of the customer gets standardized, right? Knowledge and content, spoke about it a few minutes back in detail. We do think that is the most important pillar, and that is what will drive a consistent, seamless, frictionless customer experience across the entire digital ecosystem, and that needs to be hosted on a foundational architecture that's scalable and robust, right? So knowledge graphs, as an example, is something which we've been looking at to ensure that we can build these solutions at scale. The relational models, the relational databases are no longer able to scale at that level, right? So having a graph-based architecture that hosts these taxonomies, that hosts these ontologies, to really build these solutions at scale is something which we've been working on. And like I mentioned, for the personalization platform, that we are very much the fundamental architecture is very much built on knowledge graphs. So with these three pillars, and providing that, ensuring that consistency is available across the search experience, or the VA experience, or the personalized experience, the hypothesis, the objective is to ensure that no matter who the customer is, no matter where they are in the journey, the right set of information should be made available to them then and there. And if they are unable to get to the solution through the self-serve channel, we want to make sure that there is a seamless handoff between these channels and our tech support teams. So the context is passed, and as the agents get that information, they can use additional models like next best action to provide the customers with the right response in literally 1 or 2 calls, and the customer doesn't have to wait in the queue for longer periods of time. All right, I think that's pretty much all I had. Any questions?
Okay, let's see if we get any questions. We took quite a few on the way, but maybe people have some that they haven't queued up yet. So
Sure.
Please send in your questions and just hit the Q&A button and start typing. So Aditya, I have to say, I've heard a lot about sentiment analysis before. I haven't heard anyone describe the intent part of things quite that way before. That was very informative for me, at least. Yeah,
and it's we've kind of realized that through the work that we've been doing with not just the large language models, right? With the traditional AI as well. The difference in terms of the output that even NLP based models render, they differ so much as the intent identification differs, right? So it's a very small difference, but the backend systems, the way they are designed, and I think this is across the industry, right? The way the backend systems are designed, the extraction of the knowledge based on that intent identification will be different, and it's by design. It's not something which LLM can solve for. That's kind of why we need to have that unified taxonomy layer to ensure that there is consistency across the board.
So we have not a question, but a comment. Great set of details and approach. I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
Thank you.
Let's see, we'll give it one more minute. Here comes another one. From Arnfinn Ostefjord. Great presentation. Thanks for sharing. I think, I've said a couple of times, the collegial environment, at least with ASP and the people that attend our events, is, I think, remarkable. The willingness of companies, and I know Dell is sensitive to competition and to legal aspects and to what analysts are saying about you, and you're a large company, you have to be sensitive to that. But I appreciate you very much for sharing with our very interested and involved group.
Good to share and learn.
This is wonderful. Yeah. So I think I'm going to let you go away because it's probably. Where are you in Texas?
I'm in Texas. Yeah, it's not too late.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Okay. Well, I'm in the same time zone, so it's a good time to go to happy hour, or go to dinner, or
Yeah.
just say end of day. Wait, hang on, one more comment.
Sure.
Hang on. Oh, is the sales organization begging you for intent understanding tricks yet?
Yeah. So in fact the work that we've started in services, our objective is to actually scale it parallel, right? Because the intent is a great example. You want to make sure that as a company we have a single understanding of the customer's intent, because at a very high level the customer could come to Dell.com, not even to the support website, but Dell.com, and ask a support related question. So if you have a unified intent at a very high level, if you understood that this is a support question, then you can route that customer to the support website where he or she could get the response in a much easier manner, right? Or alternatively, you could bring the content from the knowledge base that support has right then and there, because you've identified the intent as a support based intent and not a sales based intent.
Okay, so I was about to let you off the hook for any more. So,
No, yeah,
Aditya, again, I really appreciate, and I apologize for you being last. It's hard to sit there all day and wait for your turn, but you certainly you might have been last, but you weren't least. Although everybody was outstanding. But thank you again, and I'm going to
thank
ask
you.
you to turn your